الله صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا ابن رسول الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام عليك يا وارث عيسى روح الله. السلام عليك يا وارث محمد حبيب الله. A second salawat for the love of Imam Hussain and Imam Hussain. A third salawat for the love of Fatima al-Zahra with your loudest voices. When we recite our ziyarah to Abi Abdullah al-Hussein salamullahi alayh, we begin by telling him, you are the heir of prophets. Imam Hussein was the heir of all prophets, beginning from Adam. Assalamu alayka ya warith Adam safwatillah. Imam Hussein was the heir of Adam. Who was the heir of Adam? Habil. Adam had two sons, one evil son and one innocent son. His evil son, Qabil, kills his innocent son, Habil. And Habil became the first innocent person to die in history. Qabil kills his brother Habil. Why? Because Allah asks them to perform a sacrifice, and each one of them makes a sacrifice, yet the sacrifice of Habil was accepted and the sacrifice of Qabil was rejected. So Allah, because He accepted the sacrifice of Habil, Qabil decides to kill his brother. Habil was the first person to die innocently. Imam Hussain is his heir. Imam Hussain is the heir of Adam. Because Imam Hussain was killed innocently for no reason. For the only reason why he was killed, because he walked the path of Allah. He was going in the direction of Allah. Assalamu alayka ya warith Nuh nabiyillah. Imam Hussain is the heir of Nuh. Nuh, for 950 years, called his nation and called his people to the path of Allah. Yet at the day of the flood, when the flood came, Nuh didn't even have his wife and son as supporters. His closest people to him did not support him. His son tells him, "Sa'awi ila jabalin ya'simuni." When the flood comes, I will go to a mountain. I will stand on top of a mountain or a hill to be protected. And Imam Hussain alayhi salam was abandoned by his own followers. Those who wrote to him, wrote him letters telling him to come and approach Kufa, to announce him as the Khalifa, as the Imam. Yet the same people who wrote to him abandoned him. In Karbala, Imam Hussain alayhi salam takes out those letters and he mentions the names and he says, "These are the people that wrote to me. Where are they?" And they were right there fighting the Imam. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Ibrahim Khalilillah. Imam Hussain was the heir of Ibrahim. Who was Ibrahim? The Quran says that Ibrahim was a nation. Inna Ibrahim kana ummah. Ibrahim had the value of a nation. And so was Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Imam Hussain had the value of a nation. Imam Hussain fought for a nation. He fought to reform an entire nation. Ibrahim alayhi salam reached a grand stage. Why? For being willing to sacrifice his son Ismail. فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ وَنَادَيْنَاهُ أَيْ يَا إِبْرَاهِيمُ قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا. Ibrahim sees a dream. In his dream, he's slaughtering his son. قال يا بني إني أرى في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى. What do you suggest? Ismail realized that this is a command from Allah. قال يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر. Do as you're commanded. Because prophets, when they see dreams, it's a revelation. Dreams come as revelations. And then the Quran says, فَلَمَّا أَسْلَمَا وَتَلَّهُ لِلْجَبِينِ. Ibrahim decides to take his son and only son, Ismail, his eldest and only son. He takes him out. While he was in Mecca, they go out to a nearby suburb by the name of Mina, and he's about to slaughter his son. His son Ismail completely surrendered to Allah as well. And he tells his father to slaughter me. He said, "But my father, I have one request. I have a couple of requests." "What's your request, my son?" He said, "When you slaughter me from the back and not from the front." He said, "Why?" He said, "Because perhaps when you're about to slaughter me from the front, your heart will be broken and you might change your mind and you will not fulfill the command of Allah. So slaughter me from behind, from my neck." This is my first wish. My second request is that tie my hands and feet when you're about to slaughter me. "Why, my son? Why tie your hands and feet?" He says, "Because perhaps I might try to struggle. I might struggle, and when you see me struggling, you might hesitate to slaughter me. And the command of Allah will be delayed. So tie my hands and feet. And I have one more request, my dear father. This shirt of mine, take it to my mother. Because I did not say my farewell to my mother. When I left the house, she did not know that this was going to be my last day alive. Take my shirt to her. Let her smell my odor and remember me." Ibrahim alayhi salam takes out the knife. He's about to slaughter his son. The knife does not cut. As he struggles, the knife does not cut. He throws the knife in a stone, in a major rock, in a big rock. The knife cuts through. He says, "You cut through a rock, but you don't cut the neck of my son?" The knife began to speak, the hadith says. The knife said, "Al-Khalil ya'muruni wal-Jalil yanhani." Al-Khalil, Ibrahim, is ordering me, yet Allah is forbidding me. Finally, Allah tells him, قَدْ صَدَّقْتَ الرُّؤْيَا يَا Ibrahim. That's it, you've passed the test. You've passed the test. And then the Quran says, وَفَدَيْنَاهُ بِذِبْحٍ عَظِيمٍ. Instead, we gave another sacrifice. We told Ibrahim that instead of this sacrifice, there is a greater sacrifice. Some historians say that Allah sent a sheep for Ibrahim to slaughter. And that was the sacrifice. Instead of sacrificing his son, he sacrificed a sheep. Yet Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he tells us who was the genuine sacrifice. He says that al-Dhabh al-Azim was al-Hussein ibn Ali fi Karbala. He was the great sacrifice. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises Ibrahim for being willing to sacrifice his son, for having the will to sacrifice his son. And his son stayed alive, he remained alive. As for Imam Hussain, he sacrificed how many sons? How many boys? How many brothers? How many nephews? How many companions? Men that history has never seen similar to them. Imam al-Rida alayhi salam says, يا ابن شبيب إن كنت باكيا لشيء فابكي على جدي الحسين فإنه ذبح كما تذبح الشاة وقتل معه 17 من أهل بيته ليس لهم على وجه الأرض من مثيل. 17 members of his family were slaughtered along with him. On this earth they did not have anyone similar to them. No one was like them. This was Imam Hussain. What happened to Imam Hussain on this day? On the day of Ashura? What are the tragedies that occurred to Imam Hussain? I've told you before, As-Sayyid Haydar al-Hilli in his famous poem, he describes to us how the body of Imam Hussain was trampled by the horses. Umar bin Sa'd orders some of his soldiers, 10, and only 10 volunteered. 10 soldiers from the army of Umar bin Sa'd volunteered to ride their horses and come and trample the chest of Imam Hussain. As-Sayyid Haydar al-Hilli, he describes what happened. He says, حَيْثُ الْحُسَيْنُ عَلَى الثَّرَى خَيْلُ الْعِدَى طَحَنَتْ ضُلُوعَهُ. These horses, these soldiers, when they trampled the chest of Imam Hussain, they turned his ribs into powder. He doesn't say they broke his ribs. He said they were turned into powder. That means his ribs didn't exist any longer. This was the tragedy of Imam Hussain. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Musa kalimullah. Musa, Imam Hussain was the heir of Musa alayhi salam. Musa, who spent so many days and months serving Bani Israel. For a great time, he served Bani Israel and he rescues them from the oppression of Fir'aun. They escape from Egypt and they come, they pass the Red Sea. Allah opens for them the Red Sea. And they were rescued from Fir'aun, Bani Israel. But after being rescued, after Musa rescued them and after he served them, after he protected them, what did they do? They worship that calf, the golden calf that was created by As-Samiri. As-Samiri, when Musa alayhi salam went with a group of his followers to receive the 10 commandments, he left his brother Harun. As-Samiri creates a golden calf and his followers began to worship, forgetting everything that Musa had done for them, forgetting that he had rescued them, forgetting that he had served them, forgetting that he had guided them. They worshipped this calf. And the nation of Rasulullah performed the same exact thing. The nation of Rasulullah also had a Samiri. The nation of Rasulullah also had a golden calf. For 24 years Rasulullah serves this community, serves this nation for free, without asking anything in return except asking one thing. The Quran tells him, Allah says, ask them for one thing. قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي الْقُرْبَى. I ask nothing in return except love and respect and kindness for my nation, for my people, for my family, for my household. And we saw what they did with his household. We saw what they did with Imam Hussain alayhi salam. The poet says, ماذا تقولون إذ قال النبي لكم ماذا فعلتم وأنتم آخر الأمم بعترتي وبأهلي بعد مفتقدي منهم أسارى ومنهم ضرجوا بدمي. Is this what Rasulullah deserved? For serving this nation for 24 years, he deserves to have his only grandson alive at the time, to have him dragged and killed and massacred along with 71 companions? Rasulullah deserves this. Assalamu alayka ya waritha Isa ruhillah. In summary, Imam Hussain was the heir of all prophets. He was the heir. He inherited all of these prophets. In Ziyarat Ashura, there was ziyarah that we recited today. When 3 million visitors went to Karbala today, they recited this ziyarah. One of the sections in this ziyarah says, وَهَذَا يَوْمٌ فَرِحَتْ بِهِ آلُ زِيَادٍ وَآلُ مَرْوَانٍ. While we were crying, while this was a day of sadness, this is a day of commemoration. For others, this was a day of celebration. For Bani Umayyah and Bani Marwan, until today, their followers, today was a day of celebration, a day of rejoice, a day of happiness. وَهَذَا يَوْمٌ تَبَرَّكَتْ بِهِ بَنُو أُمَيَّةٍ وَابْنُ آكِلَةِ الْأَكْبَادِ اللَّعِينُ بْنُ اللَّعِينَ عَلَى نِسَانِكَ وَنِسَانِ نَبِيِّكَ. This was a day of rejoice. Bani Umayyah established fabricated ahadith. They fabricated ahadith that today, the day of Ashura, is a day of joy, a day of celebration, and a day of happiness. They fabricated ahadith that today you need to celebrate, you need to fast, you should spend, you should rejoice with your family. And indeed, Bani Umayyah and Bani Marwan, the day of Ashura was a day of happiness for them. They would gather, they would sing, they would drink alcohol and wine to rejoice the day of the killing of Imam Hussain salamullahi alayhi. The day, the saddest day in history. Ibn Hajar, in his famous book, As-Sawa'iq al-Muhraqa fi al-Rad ala al-Rafida, in this very famous book in which he wrote this book only to condemn the Shia. In his book, he mentions that on the day of Ashura, this is no jokes. If an enemy writes this, do you think this is a joke? Ibn Hajar mentions that on the day of Ashura, any stone, if you were to pick up any stone, you would find blood under it. Even in Bayt al-Maqdis in Jerusalem. This is Ibn Hajar. In Jerusalem, you would pick up stones and you would find blood under these stones. This day of sadness, yet Al-Umayyah and Al-Marwan rejoiced over this day. Until today, their followers, how many emails do you receive that fast on the day of Ashura? Do this on the day of Ashura. A day of celebration. My dear brothers and sisters, this is Umayyad propaganda. Till today it exists. Till today they are trying to destroy the day of Ashura. Remove it from a day of tragedy and make it a day of happiness. A day of joy. Even till today, even here in the city of London, they're trying to destroy this day. They're trying to change history. They're trying to remove people's minds from the tragedy of Imam Hussain and set it on others. That's why they tell you that the day of Ashura was the day that Allah rescued Musa and Bani Israel. The day of Ashura was the day that Ibrahim broke the idols. The day of Ashura was the day that this happened and that happened and this happened. But was it the day that Imam Hussain was massacred? There's no mentioning of Imam Hussain. There's absolutely no... When you receive these emails telling you to fast on the day of Ashura, is there a single mention of Imam Hussain? Absolutely nothing. Till today, and forever, my dear friends. This will happen next year and after that, they will try to remove the significance of the day of Ashura. There's a battle. There's an everlasting battle. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Some might ask, and this is an important question, some might ask, what is the big deal about Ashura? What is the big deal about Karbala? What is the big deal about Imam Hussain? You're saying that only 72 people died. What's the big deal? People are dying every day. Thousands are dying every day. Hundreds are dying every day. What's the big deal? In World War II, millions died. How come nobody remembers World War II victims? How come nobody remembers the victims of World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and all the other wars? When millions died. What's the big deal about Imam Hussain? Him and 71 other people died. What's the big deal? Why are we making a fuss? What's this whole mess about? The day of Ashura and Karbala. You see, my friends, yes, in World War II and World War I, millions died. But they did not die for the same cause that Imam Hussain died. Imam Hussain died with 71, very limited number, with 71 members from his followers and family members. Quantity-wise, it was very limited, yet it was quality. Imam Hussain died for a special cause. No one else throughout history died for the same cause as Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain died for a divine cause, for a godly cause. Imam Hussain died for Allah. And whoever dies for Allah shall be remembered the same way as Imam Hussain was remembered. Imam Hussain died for the sake of Allah. He's the one that says, إلهي تركت الخلق طرا في هواك وأيتمت العيال لكي أراك فلو قطعتني في الحب إربا لما حن الفؤاد إلى سواك. Imam Hussain says, I left everything for Allah. Imam Hussain had Allah in front of his eyes, nothing else. Imam Hussain left for Allah. He died for Allah. He lived for Allah. And whoever follows the footsteps of Imam Hussain, he who lives for Allah and dies for Allah shall be remembered like Imam Hussain. Yes, people die. Many more than Imam Hussain. Many more die worse deaths than Imam Hussain. Many more, they die more tragically than Imam Hussain. We've seen worse tragedies, but not for the same cause. It's all about the cause. It's all about the intention. It's all about why Imam Hussain rose. That is why the famous Karbala'i poet, Sheikh Muhsin Abul Hab, these words are not the words of Imam Hussain, by the way. Some think these are the words of Imam Hussain. No. These are the words of the famous poet, Sheikh Muhsin Abul Hab, when he said, إن كان دين محمد لم يستقم إلا بسيفي إلا بقتلي يا سيوف خذيني. If the religion of my grandfather will not be set straight, if it will not be reformed, then let the swords take me. Let me die for this sake. And not just Imam Hussain. Not just Imam Hussain, even his followers, even his family members, even his companions. You want to know how valued the companions of Imam Hussain's were? They were not ordinary people. I'll tell you how special they are. When Imam As-Sadiq, an infallible Imam, he comes to Karbala, when he recites his ziyarah to the ashab, let alone Imam Hussain, when he recites his ziyarah to the ashab, he says, بِأَبِي أَنْتُمْ وَأُمِّي طِبْتُمْ وَطَابَتِ الْأَرْضُ الَّتِي فِيهَا دُفِنْتُمْ وَفُزْتُمْ اللَّهِ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. You know what بِأَبِي أَنْتُمْ وَأُمِّي means? It means, may I and may my mother and may my father be sacrificed for you. An infallible Imam. Who was his father? Who was his mother? Yet he says, بِأَبِي أَنْتُمْ وَأُمِّي. May I and may my mother and may my father be sacrificed for you. Why? Because of their intention, because of their cause, because of their mission. 14-year-old Qasim, when his uncle asks him, what do you think of death? He says, Wallahi ya am fi nusratika ahla min al-asal. Death, as long as it's in your support, to support you, it's sweeter than honey. Zuhair ibn al-Qayn says, my dear master, if they killed me, and I mentioned this to you before, if they kill me, cut me into pieces, burn me, and spread my ashes, and they do this to me 70 times, I will not neglect supporting you. I will continue supporting you. Muslim ibn Awsajah says, not 70 times. If they do this to me 1,000 times, I will stick with you, Ya Aba Abdullah. These are the companions of Imam Hussain. It's the cause. It's the divine cause. It's the intention that they had, that they are immortalized till today. Imam Hussain was not the first person who was killed, and he was not the last person who was killed. That he was a special person who was killed because of his special intention, because of his special cause, him and his family members. Imam Hussain stands till today as a symbol of freedom, as a symbol of a fight against tyranny, a fight against oppression, a fight against dictatorship. Imam Hussain has set a message for all the freedom fighters out there in the world, whether you're Muslim or you're Christian, whether you're Shi'i or not Shi'i. As long as you love freedom, you're a follower of Imam Hussain. Imam Hussain inspired all freedom fighters, everyone. I guarantee you, read history. Whoever fought for freedom and sacrificed his life for freedom and fought oppression, he was inspired by Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Because Imam Hussain said a message. He declared a message on the day of Ashura. He says that death is certain for everyone. Everyone will die. But not everyone gets to live. You want to live? This is the path you seek. You fight oppression. You fight tyranny. That is why Imam Hussain lives. Till today he lives in people's hearts. His body is in Karbala. Yet his spirit, his soul is still among us. Imam Hussain on the day of Ashura, literally his physical body was killed, but on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussain was born. Imam Hussain was immortalized on the day of Ashura. He was born again on the day of Ashura. He said a message. خط الموت على ولد آدم مخط القلادة على جيد الفتاة. Death is certain. You cannot run away from death, but at least die in an honorable fashion. Die with happiness, with peace, and with honor, not in disgrace. That is why he says, فإني لا أرى الموت إلا سعادة والحياة مع الظالمين إلا برمة. Imam Hussain, after the day of Ashura, became a greater threat to Bani Umayyah. While he was alive, he wasn't that big of a threat. But once he died, he became a greater threat. Imam Hussain left a legacy. He became a greater threat. That is why Bani Umayyah feared Imam Hussain when he died more than they feared him while he was alive. That is why they say, hush, no one mentions the name of Hussain. No one. Bani Umayyah tried to conceal the name of Hussain. No one mentions the name of Hussain. After them, Bani al-Abbas came. No mentioning of Hussain. Why? Because the mention of Imam Hussain was a threat. It shook the throne of every tyrant, of every dictator, of every oppressor. That is why till today, if you're a tyrant, you don't mention the name of Imam Hussain. And you don't allow your citizens to mention the name of Imam Hussain. Al-Mutawakkil al-Abbasi, one of the greatest tyrants, 17 times he destroyed the grave of Imam Hussain. Read history. 17 times they destroy the grave of Imam Hussain, yet followers come and they build the grave of Imam Hussain once again. They build a dome. 17 times. Once he turned the grave, he turned Karbala into a farm. And he brought cattle, he brought cows, and he brought sheep on the land of Karbala so that the grave will be hidden. No one will discover where it is. Historians say, some might laugh, but if you have belief, you will believe what we say. Historians say that the cattle will go right, they will go left, they will go anywhere, but they will not come close to the grave of Imam Hussain. Once this failed, he decided to turn the grave of Imam Hussain and whatever close into a river. Make it a river. Historians say that the water came. It came close to the grave of Imam Hussain and then it circled. It circled. It did not touch the grave of Imam Hussain. That is why they call it al-ha'ir. Al-ha'ir means a circle. The water came and circled the grave of Imam Hussain. It was protected. That is why if you're from Karbala, you're called ha'iri. Why? Because you're ascribed to al-ha'ir al-Hussaini. Then, followers of Imam Hussain continued visiting by the thousands. Every time they were attacked, the visitors would increase, as if when they're attacked, they're being told to increase. At the time of Al-Mutawakkil, if you wanted to come and visit Imam Hussain, you had to pay a price. What was the price? You had to give your hand. They had to cut off your hand. You visit Imam Hussain, you have to cut off your hand. They stand at the entrance of Karbala and they cut off your hands. Historians say that one man came, they told him, "Where are you going?" He said, "I want to visit Hussein." They said, "Extend your right hand." When he extended his right hand, he didn't have a hand. They said, "Where's your hand?" He said, "I gave it last year. Here, take my left hand." They cut off his left hand. This is Imam Hussain. This is the greatest emperor, the greatest king. Which king deserves something like this? We never heard of throughout history that any king, any emperor, he had followers like the followers of Imam Hussain. أن في قلوب المؤمنين حرارة لقتل الحسين لا تبرد أبدا. Rasulullah says this. That in the hearts of every believer, every single believer, for the death of Imam Hussain, there's a yearning. There's something burning in the chest. That means if you don't feel something burning in your chest, you're not a believer. You see, those that don't even care about the day of Ashura, this tells you something. They're not believers. A believer has something burning in his heart on the day of Ashura. He can't sit still. You see those that beat their chest, they go crazy? Don't blame them. The love of Imam Hussain does this. The love of Imam Hussain does this. Rasulullah was the first to say this. That believers go crazy over Imam Hussain. Thus, every tyrant does not allow the mentioning of Imam Hussain. Look at Saddam. For 35 years there was no mentioning of the name of Imam Hussain. For 35 years. Why? Because Imam Hussain is a threat to him. Even if he's dead, he's a threat to him. The name of Imam Hussain is a threat to every tyrant, to every oppressor. Whether it's Al-Mutawakkil Al-Abbasi, or Bani Umayyah, or Bani Al-Abbas, or Saddam, or Taliban. The days that the Taliban ruled, there is no mentioning of Imam Hussain. Until today, in certain kingdoms, and I mentioned kingdoms, there are certain kingdoms till today in the Middle East, there's no mentioning of Imam Hussain. Why? Because the name of Imam Hussain is a threat to their kingdom. It's a threat to their throne. It's a threat to their entire existence. Look at the media. Look at the Arabic media. Watch Al-Arba'in, the ziyarah of Imam Hussain on the 40th. Last year, the years before, and this year. Look at the millions that come to Imam Hussain on the 40th. And I encourage all of you, my dear friends, my dear brothers and sisters, if there's one thing I encourage you, come to Karbala on the 40th. It's once in a lifetime event. You don't want to miss it. Come to Karbala on the 40th, it will change your life. Over 10 million come to visit Imam Hussain in Karbala for the 40th, for the Arba'in. It's the largest gathering in the world. Where else will you hear of 10 million gathering or 15 million gathering other than Karbala on the 40th of Imam Hussain? Come, I encourage every single one of you. Make it a goal to come. If not this year, then the year after. Come to Karbala on the 40th. Last year, on the 40th of Imam Hussain, when millions were gathered, some Arabic satellite channels, the media, I remember in Spain, at the same time there was a new dancing parade. There was live coverage, almost live coverage of that incident, but no live coverage of Karbala. No live coverage of the ziyarah of Imam Hussain. Why? Because the ziyarah of Imam Hussain and the mentioning of his name is a threat to their mere existence. It's a threat to their government. Because Imam Hussein's name encourages revolt. Imam Hussein's name encourages revolution, encourages fighting against oppression, fighting against tyranny and dictatorship. That's why don't mention the name of Hussein in tyrannical governments. Imam Hussein's name lives on, my dear friends. Look at today. Look at Imam Hussein's followers today. If there are any group of people today that are fighting tyranny, they are the followers of Imam Hussain. The world dictators, the tyrants of today, the largest tyrant of today. Who's the largest tyrant? Israel. Who does Israel fear? Think about it for a moment. Who does Israel fear the most today? Saudi Arabia? Jordan? Egypt? Who do they fear the most? Who kicked out Israelis from Lebanon within a couple of days? Who kicked them out? Why is the world going crazy over Iraq, my dear friends? Why is the world going crazy over Iraq? Bring anyone else, I assure you, bring anyone else from the opposite school of thought, and everything will be okay in Iraq. No more car bombs, the economy will be fine, everything will be perfect. But why is the world going crazy? Because the Alulbayt are coming to power in Iraq. This is the reason. Why in another country the people are going crazy over its nuclear power? Why? Israel doesn't own nuclear power? Israel doesn't have the bomb? India doesn't have the bomb? Pakistan doesn't have the bomb? But why is the world not worrying about others and they're worried about this specific country? Because they're followers of Ahlul Bayt. People fear the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because of Imam Hussain. That's it. Because Imam Hussain has taught his followers one lesson. Not to relent. Not to deter to oppression and tyranny and dictatorship. That is why Imam Hussain says, ألا وأن الدعي ابن الدعي قد ركز بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة. And then he mentioned a statement that lives with us forever. It goes in our blood, it lives in our system. He says, هيهات من الذلة. No to oppression. No to tyranny. No to dictatorship. I tell our friends in Palestine and in Palestine, you want victory? You want to defeat your enemy? There's only one way. Come to Imam Hussain alayhi salam. If you want victory over your lands, if you want honor, if you want to raise your heads in honor, walk in your country in honor, there's only one way. There's only one path, and that's the path of Imam Hussain. The path of victory. The path of honor. The path of defeating oppression and dictatorship. We tell our friends this. As long as you don't come to Imam Hussain, there's no victory for you. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Before I conclude, my dear friends, tonight is the last night of our majlis. Tonight is the last night of our majlis. We conclude these series. We've spent wonderful nights with these beautiful faces. With these wonderful faces full of iman, full of faith, and full of wilayah to Imam Ali alayhi salam. I just want to mention several points that some of the audience members have pointed out to me, and I'd also like to mention them. Number one, my dear friends, you've come for the past 11 nights, you've mourned Imam Hussain, you've cried, you've shed your tears, you wore black, you spent your time at this majlis, you had other things to do, you have work, you have school, you have other important things, yet you came for 11 nights. Let it be fruitful. My dear friends, take your salat seriously. As-salat, as-salat, as-salat. None of you should take your salat seriously. And none of you should take your salat lightly. And I don't think any of you takes his salat or her salat lightly. But this is a word for others. Let's encourage others. Imam Hussain died for salat. Imam Hussain does not want our tears, he wants our salat. Yes, our tears benefit us and we receive thawab. Yet Imam Hussain wants our salat. Don't delay your prayers. Let's pray on time. As soon as it's adhan time, let's pray. Imam Hussain died for his salat. On the day of Ashura, Salat al-Dhuhr, Imam Hussain does not forget it. He does not neglect it. The arrows are approaching him. Yet Imam Hussain stands and he prays Jama'ah. This was Salat al-Dhuhr. As for Salat al-Asr, he too prays, but how? In which sort of state? The Imam was lying on the battleground. He was lying on his back, yet he says Allahu Akbar and he prays. Even at that moment. At that moment, the Imam does not neglect his prayers. Believe me, my dear friends, if you neglect your prayers, by neglecting, you're bringing arrows into the chest of Imam Hussain. Because he died for your prayer. When he sees his followers not praying, he feels as if he died for nothing. Don't let the Imam feel this way. This is one. Number two, and I have to say this, even if we repeat, this is important. My dear sisters, al-hijab, al-hijab, al-hijab. Do not take your hijab lightly. Imam Hussain died for your hijab. When a follower of Imam Hussain does not take her hijab lightly, if she shows her hair, if she's not wearing proper clothing, this burns the heart of Imam Hussain. You've come these nights, you've received thawab, you've made Imam Hussain happy and make him more happy. Protect your hijab. Your hijab is your honor. Don't neglect your hijab. Hijab doesn't just mean putting a scarf and that's it. Hijab is a lot more than that. Hijab means protecting your body, protecting the shape of your body, not bringing attention to yourself. This is important. Not wanting to bring attention to yourself. My dear sisters, don't take your hijab lightly. This is a brotherly advice. Take it from a brother, not from your mother or father, but from a brother. Take this advice. Don't take your hijab lightly. Make Imam Hussain happy. For the sisters that don't wear hijab, make a decision tonight that you will not neglect your hijab. Don't neglect your hijab because this is your honor. Third, and I have to say this to my young brothers and sisters, your parents are important to you. Do not neglect your parents. Have respect for your parents. Your parents who raised you. Your mother who spent 9 months in pregnancy. For those, parental care starts before even pregnancy. Those that cannot have children or waited for 2 or 3 years, they know what I'm talking about. When they're so desperate in having children, they wait for a year, 2 years, 3 years, wanting to have that child. And then 9 months of pregnancy. And then after that, I hear from many parents that our children have neglected us. They're treating us as if we're no one. These are not the Islamic manners. Islamic manners teach us to respect our parents, obey our parents, kiss the hands of our parents. I like to say something more. Kiss the feet of our parents. How many of us do that? You think that if you kiss the feet of your mother or father, this is something little? This is something too much? I'm sorry. This is something too much? Believe me, if we kiss the feet of our parents every day, we're still doing injustice to them. I'll tell you this story. I mentioned the story in another speech somewhere else. One mother had a son. This mother didn't have one eye. She only had one eye. The other eye she didn't have. This child, as he grew up, when he went to school, he was embarrassed. He was ashamed of his mother. He would tell his mother that when you drop me off to school, don't stand far away. I don't want my friends to see you. They'll start making fun of me. Why? Because she only has one eye. Every day, she would come, bring him to school, but she would stand very far and he would walk. But she would see him go back to school. When he would come out, she would stand far. Why? So that his friends would not see her. When she would come home, his friends might sometimes come over. He would say, don't come in front of my friends. I'm embarrassed. I'm ashamed that my mother has one eye. He grew up. He got married, but he remained distant from his mother. When he got married, he did not even invite her to his wedding because he was ashamed of his mother. He remained away from his mother. She would call, she would visit, but he would never respond. One day, he heard news that this mother has passed away. She died. He went to her house. When he found out that she had died, they told him that your mother has left you a note. He read the note. In the note she says, my dear son, I loved you greatly. And I spent a lot of time raising you. But I know that you did not want to be around me. You were ashamed of me and you were embarrassed of me. But I just want to tell you one thing now. I have one eye. You want to know why? Because when you were born blind in one eye. The doctors wanted an eye. No one volunteered. I volunteered my own eye. They took out my eye and they gave it to you. This is a mother. These are our mothers. These are our fathers. Let's know the value of our parents. Let's show some respect to our parents. Our parents have a lot of weight to us. Let's not neglect them. Our parents will only live for a couple of years. They're guests among us. They're only guests. Let's take care of these guests. And he who serves his parents and shows respect to his parents, this person will have a high status with Allah. And he will see the same sort of treatment with his own children. Let's not neglect our parents. Karbala tonight is very dark. Karbala tonight is very lonely. You see these candles? You know why there's candles tonight? You see this fire? Because tonight in Karbala there's fire. There's some tents on fire in Karbala. The men are gone. Imam Hussain is gone. Ibn Fadl al-Abbas is gone. Ali al-Akbar is gone. It's only women and children not knowing what to do. Running from one tent to another. Running from one camp to another, not knowing what to do. Zainab alayhi salam had to collect all the women, all the children, all the young girls. And on top of all of this, Umar bin Sa'd orders his soldiers to burn down the tents. They come and they set all the tents on fire. The women don't know what to do. They've run from one tent to another. They go to another tent, they see it ablaze on fire. They go to another tent and it's also on fire. Running from one tent to another until they gather at the tent of Imam Zayn al-Abidin. Yes, Zaynab alayhi salam had to look out after all the children, all the young girls, with all these tragedies upon her chest, losing her brothers, losing her children. Zaynab had 2 boys lost on the day of Ashura. 2 boys. Yet Zaynab has to look out after these children. خويا خويا أنا تحيرت والله بيتامك أنا تحيرت والله بيتامك خويا أنا مالي حيل فرقاك هاي تصيح عمي وين عمي وذيك الصيح فارقني من أمي. This was the most difficult night upon the heart of Zaynab alayhi salam, the women, the children. This was the first time that Zaynab had departed her brother Hussein. Throughout their entire lives they were together except this night. All of a sudden she sees her brother gone, and Abbas gone, all the children gone. Zaynab had to perform a countdown. She counts all the women, all the children, making sure that none of them are missing. All of a sudden she noticed that one of the women was missing. Who? Which one of the women was missing? Was it Ruqayyah? Was it Sukaina? Was it Layla? No, it was Rabab. It was the wife of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. But where could Rabab be? Zaynab started looking all over for Rabab. In the middle of the background, in the middle of the battleground, Rabab is not there. Where could Rabab possibly be? Finally she remembered that there's a very small little grave, the grave of an infant. Possibly she could be sitting over there. Zaynab comes behind the camp and indeed she sees Rabab is sitting on the ground. There's soil and dirt and mud on her head, and she's sitting next to a lonely grave, a very small grave, singing to that child. Ya ibni, ya ibni, ya ibni, ya Abdallah, ya ghali. يا غالي يا غالي أنا برباك سهرت الليالي أنا إذن بالمهيد والميت خالي. The children were still dying from thirst. Umar bin Sa'd finally tells his soldiers, let's give them some water. Let's quench them their thirst. The soldiers come carrying cups of water, offering the children water. But Umar bin Sa'd notices something interesting. The children are dying from thirst, yet none of them approach the soldiers to take the water. None of them. They all refuse to drink. They all refused to take the water. They kept on saying, كيف نشرب الماء وقد قتل أبونا عطشانا. How can we drink this water when you slaughtered our father, when you slaughtered our parents, our fathers, they died thirsty. All of a sudden, they saw one of the lonely girls. One of the girls, she took a cup of water. They said, subhanallah, she is so thirsty that she's about to drink this water. Yet they noticed that she did not drink. She took the water, but she did not drink. She started looking right or left. They wanted to see what is she about to do. Finally, she realized that she's directed into the battleground. She headed towards the battleground, where she started looking at the dead bodies. Looking at the dead bodies, finally she stopped at one of the dead bodies, a headless body. She sat down and she said, Abba, qum washrab al-ma. My dear father, you died thirsty, here's the water, drink. شلون اشرب لذيذ الماء حاشا وقوم قضوا كلهم عطاشا والحسين التراب أمسى فراشا يا ناس درب المشرع منين أنا قصدي أجيب الماء لحسين. And it was this night, a night like this, that Umar ibn Sa'd says that gather all the bodies and go and chop off all the heads. Grab me all the heads. When they brought him the heads, he said, put the heads on the spears. Put the heads on the spears. Umar ibn Sa'd counted the heads, and he noticed that the heads were only 71. He said, this is not right. Today we killed 72. Why do we have 71 heads? They counted again, and indeed they saw that the heads were only 71. He said, yes, there's one more head. That head is buried. That head is the head of Ali al-Asghar. The head of that infant. Go and grab me that head as well. They went, they dug the grave of Ali al-Asghar, they chopped off his head and they put the head on the spear. They put his head on the spears, they grabbed the head of Imam Hussain. Umar ibn Sa'd gives the head to Khuwalla and he says, rush to Kufa. Take this head to Kufa, give it to Ibn Ziyad. Khuwalla mounts his horse, he heads towards Al-Kufa. He comes to Qasr al-Imara to give the head to Ibn Ziyad. They tell him that Ibn Ziyad is asleep. They tell him, come back the next day, come in the morning. Khuwalla takes the head and he comes home. He comes to his house in Kufa. His wife opens the door. She says, where were you? He said, I was out in the desert. She said, what have you brought? He said, I brought you jewels. I brought you jewelry. She said, what? He said, I brought you the head of the grandson of Rasulullah, the head of the son of Fatima al-Zahra, the head of Imam Hussain. She said, you brought the head of Hussain? Men bring jewelry, men bring gold and silver, and you bring me the head of the only grandson of Rasulullah? She said, I will no longer remain with you. I will no longer live with you. He takes the head and he puts it, as they say, in the tanur, in a stove, in an oven that he had at home. The wife of Khuwalla gets up in the middle of the night to perform Salat al-Layl. Her husband was asleep. She gets up in the middle of the night to perform Salat al-Layl. All of a sudden she hears a faint voice coming from the area where the head was staying. She listened to the voice. She could not recognize what the voice was. As she came closer to the head, she realized that it's the voice of a woman, rather the voice of a mother. What's the voice saying? The voice was saying, وَلَدِي قَتَلُوكَ وَلَدِي ذَبَحُوكَ وَلَدِي قَتَلُوكَ عَطْشَانًا وَمَا عَرَفُوكَ. She realized it was the voice of a mother, the mother of this Imam, the mother of Fatima al-Zahra. يَبْنِي أَنَا الْوَالْدَ وَالْقَلْبُ لَهْفَانٍ. Traditionally, it is best to end a majlis by mentioning Fatima al-Zahra. Tonight we mention Imam Hussain and Fatima al-Zahra. أنا الوالد والقلب لهفان ودور عزبني وين ما كان ولا على ابن المات عطشان ولعبت عليه الخيل ميدان وين اللي يواسيني يا شيعة على حسين واطفاله ورضيعه أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فراتي. Please remain in the halt and listen to the Batmiyya. صلوا على